So after doing an entire 4 months on the book of Luke that Todd went through, he's going to take a break. No, he went to a conference this week, the end of the week, and so this is a good opportunity for me to come up and do a one-shot sermon, sort of take a deep breath after going through that whole quarter. And so Todd has known that I've had a pet project in the back of my mind that just keeps coming up, keeps being refreshed and reminded. And some of you have heard it already, but welcome to the sermon entitled, Christians, Stop Lying on the Internet. And Todd's getting a PowerPoint up here pretty quick. I'm on Facebook. You've heard me talk about Facebook a lot up here. I want to do an informal little poll here. How many of you, whether you use it or not regularly, have a Facebook account? Okay, and it's okay if your hand's not up. That might even be better for you. So a majority of us have a Facebook account. Okay, how many of you would say you use it regularly? Let's say regularly as every couple of days. My hand's up for like all of this, okay? Okay, how many of you use it every day? Okay, how many of you use it multiple times per day? And like I said, my hand's up for all of this. Okay, so you see the number gets less and less, but the first question, how many of you use Facebook? You know, almost the entire church. How many of you who use Facebook have ever thought, even once, I'm going to delete my account, be done with this, I don't need this anymore, I'm done? Ted's hand shot up like a bee. Oh, sorry, I didn't look. Put your hands back up for that one, I'm curious. How many of you have thought about getting off Facebook? A fair amount of you. More of you want to get off Facebook than use Facebook every day. So there's some statistics going on there. There's a lot of different internet stuff we could talk about today. Imager and Snapchat and Facebook and all of these different programs that you use. I'm going to focus mainly on Facebook because it's the most used one and it's the one that I expect most of us are connected to. Do we have the slide ready? I want to share with you one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite presidents. Don't worry, Mary Lou's going back to help him out. So I can help with some of your curiosities as well, because I know that if I don't deal with this right away, some of you will only be listening for this announcement. So on April 1st, right, April Fool's Day, the day that everything is a lie and you should trust no one on the internet, just like every other day, I decided, okay, we're almost there. I decided to post that Trish and I are expecting our second kid in mid-October. And wait a minute, you don't know if it's a lie yet. I'll feel really bad if it's a lie and you're clapping. It's not a lie. We're expecting our second kid in October. You can clap. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're very, very excited. But first of all, because I posted it on April Fool's, some of you, I think Linda might have been the first one to say, wait a minute. Is this an April Fool's Day joke? And some of you, Stephanie's not here, they're on the way to Disney, but Stephanie Newton immediately called Trish and said, this isn't a joke, is it? And Trish was like, no, it's not a joke. And Sam got in trouble because he's known for a few weeks now. Oh, we see the quote. So, yeah, I wasn't lying on the internet, but I was building some suspense for the sermon entitled, Don't Lie on the Internet. So this is one of my favorite Abraham Lincoln quotes. I see it come up all over the place, right? Don't believe everything you read on the internet. Abraham Lincoln. In case you didn't get it, the internet wasn't around back then. So he's probably like a future teller, a prophet or something. Has anybody ever seen this picture come across the internet before? Few of you. You probably haven't seen this one per se, but I bet you've seen a picture of a person and a quote attributed to them. I see Albert Einstein, Abraham Lincoln come across all these people. They are all lies. Like, just go in with that mindset to begin with. Just because somebody's put a picture next to a quote, it's probably a lie. But we're going to trust in this Abraham Lincoln quote to help guide us through our sermon today. You should not believe everything you read on the internet. I want to read a verse real quick. I bet this verse will sound familiar to some of you, to most of you. It's out of the Gospels. It says, again, you have heard that it was said, you shall not make false vows, but shall fulfill your vows to the Lord. This is Jesus talking in the Sermon on the Mount. But I say to you, Make no oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Nor should you make an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. Listen to this last verse. But let your statement be this: yes, yes, or no, no. Anything beyond this is evil. This is part of why I think this message is so important. As Christians, we should have just this trustworthy nature. People should hear what we say and think, oh, he said it, she said it, that must be true. There are people in my life who, when they say something, I just wholeheartedly believe it. And I suspect there's people in your life that you trust that way too. There are also people in my life who, when they say it, I immediately disbelieve it. And I expect that there are some people in your life that way too, and people all across the spectrum, right? As Christians, Jesus makes it clear that our yes should be yes and our no should be no. And this is talking about fulfilling your commitments, but I also think it has to do with the integrity, the honesty behind what we say. And so as we go through this sermon and we see all these different lies and fabrications and exaggerations on the internet, I wanted to start off by saying, even if people are just seeing what we post on the internet, if it comes from us as Christians, as children of God, they should think, this is probably true. This person is being honest with me. So there's this program that exists in the world called Photoshop. Go to the next slide. This is one of my other favorite pictures on the internet. If you can't see it, it's a picture of a velociraptor riding a shark holding dynamite and an Uzi. And the quote says, "I think this might be photoshopped." If you don't know, Photoshop is a picture editing program that you can basically make anything look like anything in any background. It's a very useful program. But it used to be a lot harder to fake pictures. Right, you used to have to get the negative and go into a dark room, and you'd have to do the burning, and you'd have to expose it differently and put two negatives on top of each other, or maybe you'd have to cut out pictures and put them inside a copy machine and then take a picture and send it to the newspaper, what have you. Nowadays, it's click, click, background, and you've got a velociraptor riding a shark. This has led to a lot of misunderstandings in the modern world. And I think there is something generational happening here. I grew up thinking every picture I ever saw on the internet was a lie. I think that most of you who are older than me grew up with newspapers or magazines or the 6 o'clock news. And in that world, the pictures were a lot harder to fake. And maybe there were some editors in charge of them. So I want to go through some of the more famous Photoshop hoaxes that have come out. This one, I bet that you have all seen this because it was super popular just last year, the Super Mars. Did anybody see a post or a news story about how Mars was going to be so close, Ted saw it, that like it's going to be the same size as the moon? Oh my goodness, this came across my Facebook every day for weeks. Make sure to go outside, the moon's going to be huge, you have to see this, it's going to be amazing. First of all, if the Mars was that big, we would all be dead. Right? Logically, this makes no sense, but that did not stop it from coming across my news feed over and over and over again. And I wanted to figure out, where did this come from? This hoax in particular started in 2003 by a group of astronomers who thought it would be really funny to send this out to their students. So they did, and they sent it out through email, and then one of their students emailed it to their parents back home. You got to see this moon, and then their parents told their family and their community. And now in 2015, when this was shown, it was seen over 2.5 million times just on Facebook. A lie that NASA had refuted since 2004 in newspapers and magazines and the news and the internet. NASA got less than 100,000 views on all of its posts combined refuting this. This should just start to tip us off at how these lies, these hoaxes, get kind of out of control. A group of well-meaning, prankster teachers wanted to do a joke, and now over 10 years later, there are still millions of people learning bad astronomy and making themselves look dumb. This is point number one why I think we should stop lying on the internet. It makes us look dumb. And we really don't want to look dumb if the next message we want to share with people is, I've got something to tell you about Lord Almighty, creator of the universe. Because if we look dumb when we're talking about Mars, we're probably going to people are going to think we look dumb talking about Jesus. So point number one, why we should stop lying on the internet. It makes us look dumb. So let's look at some more funny hoaxes. This one, you don't have to read all the little words, just the top here. Facebook to begin charging users $3 a month starting November 1st. Has anybody ever once seen a post on their Facebook that somebody shared that said Facebook is going to start charging? That one's been a little more popular. And what I see is at the very bottom of it, it says, and if you don't want to pay, make sure to copy and paste this as your status for the next week. And so what happens? Everybody and their mom, especially their mom probably, starts copying and pasting. Mark Zuckerberg's going to take all of our money. If you post this, he absolutely won't do it. This is what we need to do. Oh man, every month I see somebody posting this. And then somebody else posts it with the tag like, just in case this is true. And then somebody else is like, well, I saw my friend post this. This one I posted here, I think, is from 2014. I trace this one back to the very first year of Facebook. This has just been recirculating. And again, not only does this make us look dumb, I think it makes us look gullible. And those two things are kind of interconnected. Gullible tends to be endearing in most cases, and dumb is always negative. But if we're a group of people who in our free time, our entertainment, are making ourselves look dumb and gullible, and then we want to tell people we have the answer for the creation of the universe. Oh yeah, let's do this one. Let's do this next one. This was recent. Mysterious Nazi submarine from WW2 discovered in the Great Lakes. Anybody see this one? A couple more. Ted sees everything. So if you go to the grocery store and you're waiting in the grocery aisle, you see where this is going. There's candy, and then there's trashy magazines, right? You've got your, like the Inquirer, the Daily World News. I almost bought one today just so that I could show you some of the articles in them, but I don't want to waste my money. That's what we're doing here. And everybody who lived in Michigan was so excited about this. We were going to be famous. We had a Nazi sub. How did it get there? It didn't, because this is a picture from Russia. I counted at least 30 times that this picture came across my Facebook wall. Not ironically either. This was people who were very excited. It's going to go in a museum, and they're arguing about which museum it might end up in, and is it going to go to Wisconsin, or is it going to go to Michigan, and it was just people making themselves look dumb. I've got one more that I want to really talk about in this hoax section. So there was a really big lottery jackpot recently, right? How many of you saw this one? Yeah, Matt saw this one. Yeah. So first of all, if you know math, this is bad math. And some of us are very bad at math. Granted, I don't actually know anyone who's this bad at math. And if you need help, it comes out to be like $4.33, right? Like you can go and buy a Starbucks, and that'd be fine. World's a better place. But, oh man, the response to this one getting passed around. I woke up in the morning, it's 8 or 9 o'clock, I'm checking my email, and I'm seeing this on my Facebook wall. People are so excited, we're going to change the world. We just give all this money away, it's going to be great. And I thought, oh, this is going to be bad. So it's like 9 a.m. By 11 o'clock, I see the response posts. Why are you all such idiots? Can't you do any math? I can't believe you reposted this. Now, I assume most people reposted it without reading it. The person who originally did this one was just a random guy on Imgur. He's just an internet celebrity who wants to get attention and get views. Every time somebody clicked this to follow onto his link, he was making ad revenue. Even at a half a cent a pop, you get 1 million people to scroll over to your site because you posted a picture that you purposely knew was bad math. You're going to make some money. But it's not him I'm worried about. It was the response. And most of my Facebook wall is full of Christians. I know a lot of Christians. I've got a mix, but by proportion, it's probably mostly Christians. Oh man, the meanness and hate and vitriol that came out of Christians because people posted this was incredible. If I messed up on a math problem to your face, would you call me an idiot and a terrible person and the scum of the earth? I mean, I hope not. That'd be mean. But that's what I saw coming across my Facebook wall. Some gullible, we'll call them gullible, I'll try to avoid dumb for now. A gullible Christian, a gullible person posted this on their Facebook wall because they thought it was clever or a good idea, or they got wrapped up in the bandwagon. And then some other Christian who was less gullible decided to be very, very mean and just lambast this person for their terrible understanding of math. And then the fight starts, right? Because as soon as somebody calls you dumb or gullible, you've got to defend yourself, and then you're obviously wrong. And I just watched thread after thread of dozens of replies arguing about how I'm not dumb, I'm being funny, and people were hurt by this, by a post that some guy intentionally created to make money. So that's point number 2. And we're going to get to the 3 points pretty quickly and then talk about them. Why we should stop lying on the internet. It makes us look dumb, and it makes us look mean. And I'm just going to keep rehearsing this thing about talking about the Savior of the universe, the Creator of the universe. If we look dumb, they're not going to believe us. If we look mean, they're not going to want to listen to us. I don't remember Jesus walking up to somebody and saying, "You are an idiot for not believing in me. You are just the worst." He had a lot of things to say to a lot of people, but I don't think that one made it out. So this next picture that's going to come up is kind of where the rubber meets the road for me here, because we're going to start getting Christian-y. And I intentionally took the words off of this picture. I want to see does anybody recognize this one? Has anybody seen it? I see a couple of nods. So this picture, it comes across my Facebook maybe every couple of months. It was very popular about a year ago. And almost always I see it with the tagline, "We serve a God who tells the waters where to stop." That would be really neat if it was true. And this isn't a Photoshop job. This was a picture, I think this one was taken in like 2007. Yeah, by a guy who was on a research cruise up by Alaska. And this picture, this frozen moment in time, does appear to show two waters that won't mix. 15 seconds after this picture was taken, there was no boundary and the waters mixed. This is a place up in Alaska where glacier melt comes down full of sediment and hits the ocean. And it takes a little bit for this to all work itself out. So I just wanted you to understand the science there a little bit. That's not the most important part, but this moment captured in time is a really neat picture that some Christians got a hold of and said, "Isn't it amazing? We truly serve a God who says these are the boundaries of the water." And they put it on a picture that scientifically that's completely inaccurate. So if you are somebody who is versed in science, if you're an oceanographer, if you understand where this picture is, if you're from Alaska, and some Christian posts this on their wall talking about how they serve a God who controls the waters, and you sit there and go, does he just control the waters for 15 seconds? Are the boundaries constantly shifting? More likely than not, you think this Christian is kind of dumb. And maybe dumb is the best case scenario here. Maybe you start wondering if this Christian is kind of manipulative. If they're willing to take small details and twist them to make their case, because their case isn't very strong. And so that's point number 3. I said I want to get these points out very quickly so we could talk about them. These lies on the internet make us look dumb, they make us look mean, and they make us look manipulative. And again, if you're telling somebody that you have the answer to life, that you know the creator of the universe, and you're doing it in a very manipulative way, such as, hey, I'll tell you about Jesus after you buy me dinner. Hey, I'll tell you about Jesus, but only if you put some money in the offering plate. Hey, I'd love to tell you about Jesus. Why don't you come over and help me clean my house and we'll chat? You know, that's not really how I want to learn about Jesus. And I only wanted to pick one sort of serious post here, but I see these Christian posts come by a lot with science that is not just bad or controversial, but science that doesn't make any sense, such as this thing about the boundaries of the water. We can do better than this. So before we jump on to the next one, it's a political season, and it's very hard to find non-political Facebook hoaxes or lies. So I want to cover 3 major candidates real quickly here with no pictures. Okay, first of all, Bernie Sanders is not driving around in an Audi A. Boy, that picture comes up a lot. No, that wasn't him. It was some random guy in, like, Georgia. Hillary Clinton is not currently shaking Osama bin Laden's hand. He's dead. There was a Photoshop contest back in 2006 that said, put Hillary Clinton in the craziest place possible. So they made a picture of her shaking Osama bin Laden's hand, and it just came across my Facebook page yesterday. Ay, ay, ay. And no, Donald Trump did not say that the Muslims killed Jesus. Also came across my Facebook page earlier this week. That also doesn't make sense if you think about it for a second. If you see anything about politicians that's too bad to be true, it's probably too bad to be true. But we are going to get political here just for a second. To me, this is the most popular Photoshop job on Facebook that encompasses us being dumb, manipulative, and mean. I want to read this sign in case you can't see it. It says, no mother should fear for her son's life every time he robs a store. I got to tell you, before we get any farther, this picture is fake, and it's really dumb. So this picture is a Photoshop job, and I'll show you the real one in a minute. This picture was hugely popular. This is after the stuff that happened in Ferguson. We're talking upwards of 7 million views across multiple social networks. There's probably one person seeing it 1 million times or something, right? But a lot of people saw this picture and used it as their main source for arguing about how protesters are dumb. I want to show you the real picture. If you can't see it, it says, no mother should have to fear for her son's life every time he leaves the home. Now, politics aside, the argument aside, do you see a difference between those two signs? If you were this gentleman who decided this was worth protesting for, and you held up this sign about not being afraid when you leave the home, and then you get back to your computer that night, and there's a picture of you holding a sign saying something as dumb as what his sign held, I think you'd be pretty frustrated. And then later, if your Christian friends started reposting the fake picture of you holding a sign to show the world how dumb you were, if Christians in general started reposting the picture to show how dumb you were, boy, I would sure think they were being pretty mean. And I would feel like they were manipulating me to prove a point to the internet. And then everybody who reposted it, I would feel like they were pretty gullible. And this picture, 7 million views this picture got. You can click to the next one, Todd. Just to bookend this, I think this might be photoshopped. There are a bunch of websites out there that specialize in fake news and fake pictures. That's their whole business. Somehow we think the internet is immune to this, though every day we walk to the grocery store, or maybe not every day, I go shopping like once a week. We go to the grocery store and see the trash mags. And we've gotten so used to ignoring them that we seem to forget the internet is the biggest trash mag ever. I talked about Freaking News earlier. That's the one that did the Hillary Clinton picture. How many of you ever heard of The Onion? The Onion is a website that does nothing but fake news. And it's hilarious. What's not hilarious is when I see people reposting those articles as fact. Usually because they want to make somebody else look dumb. And that's mean. What's really not funny is when I see legitimate news organizations posting Onion articles on their websites or talking about them on the news. Some other ones, just to put some names in your head, the National Report, when the Ebola stuff was happening, they posted that an entire Texas town was quarantined. That Texas town was really unhappy about this. Their 911 system did not work for the entire day from outside people trying to get a hold. Oh, is everything okay? Where does the roadblock start? Where's the quarantine? World News Daily Report posts a ton of religious stories that I could put up here. They were the one that started the thing about finding chariot wheels in the Red Sea. It was not true. And I don't know about a lot of you, a lot of Christians on my Facebook feed started posting, we found the chariot wheels, it's finally time, we have the proof. I want to make sure if this solid archaeological evidence ever comes, we don't look dumb already. They also said that the Smithsonian had Goliath's skeleton and they're just hiding it from us. That one's probably true. And then I was just tracking it the last month because I knew this was coming up. There were 11 other fake news sites that I saw people reposting articles from as though they were true. And I don't think there's particularly anything wrong with these fake news sites. I don't begrudge them their craft or their business. I think it's up to us to start fact-checking some of this or asking if it's useful to share. I'm going to talk about how we can do that. So I want to read a verse, and I believe I heard Ron's Sunday school class reading this verse out of 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15. It says, "But in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks for the reason of the hope you have." Listen to this last part here. "But do this with gentleness and respect." You have to treat people who question you with gentleness and respect. And you also have to be able to give an answer for why you believe what you believe about Jesus. Todd, set me up the next picture. This is just a one-panel comic, wife talking to a husband, presumably. "Are you coming to bed?" "I can't. This is important." "What is?" "Someone is wrong on the internet." So assuming that we're not posting things that are out and out lies because we've moved past that. I told you I'll share some sites where you can fact check some things. That still leaves us with the problem of being mean. And maybe this is really the bigger problem. Most people can shake their head and laugh when somebody they're gullible, they get caught in the news. It happens. It happens all the time on Facebook. What I think we really need to be checking is our attitude. Have you ever, Facebook users of the world, have you ever seen somebody post something dumb on Facebook and felt that little kindling in your belly? You know you can prove them wrong. You know you're right. And if you could just post it, they would surely understand. Well, you can't and they won't. Let's just clear that up right here. This would be like trying to have an argument with somebody by writing letters to each other. Except it happens instantly, so nobody gets a chance to think about what words they're actually writing. I'm going to read one more verse out of Corinthians, and then I have a short video I want to show you. Paul says this, "Now concerning the things sacrificed to idols, we know that we have all knowledge." Paul says we have this figured out. "Knowledge makes us arrogant, but love edifies." Another way that's written is, "Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up." You may have heard it that way. "If anyone supposes that he knows anything, he has not yet known as he ought to know. But if anyone loves God, he is known by him." Did you know it is not important to prove everyone wrong and prove yourself right all the time? Did you all know that? Because I spent about 25 years of my life not knowing that. And in person, maybe I only bump into a couple dozen people a day that I actually talk to and hear about and can just listen to how terrible their ideas are. And maybe there's just one or two of those that I actually interact with, but I am going to let them know how wrong they are. Now, when you get on Facebook, you're interacting with hundreds of people at a moment's notice. And I think most of us assume that everyone else in the world, at least half the world, is dumber than we are. I know dumber's not a word. Dumber than we are. So this next video, I want to show a video. And he's going to deal with what I think is the actual symptom here. And he's not going to come at it from a Christian perspective, but he is going to set me up to talk about what Jesus has to say here. Now, this guy talks pretty quickly. Him and his brother do a YouTube series. They just talk about life and they answer back and forth. So he's going to talk pretty quickly, but I'm going to talk about what he talks about. Thanks, Todd. Pretty good video. I like that video a lot. I've shared it with a lot of people. I do think, for point number 2 about we're mean, I think we are kind of addicted to outrage. I think we like getting worked up. I think we kind of like telling people they're wrong and we're right. He makes a statement in there that outrage blinds us to what's actually happening. I want to share something that Jesus had to say. This is from Matthew chapter 7. He says, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye when there is a plank in your own? How can you say to your brother, with outrage, mind you, 'Let me take that speck out of your eye,' when the whole time there is a plank," now this is humorous, right? You got a board sticking out of your head, "a plank in your own eye." Probably hitting him in the head every time you try to reach for that speck. Why don't you hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you can see clearly to help your brother. Everybody knows when you have a plank in your eye. Like if this was a real situation, everybody would see the plank. This is what happens on the internet when we let outrage guide our conversations, when we let our desire to tell people they're wrong and we're right, and let's be honest here, to protect God from Facebook, to protect their religion from the ignorance. What the world sees is us flailing around with a plank coming out of our head telling everyone else how wrong they are. And even if you're right about it, right? Jesus doesn't say your brother doesn't have a speck in his eye. He says stop swinging your plank around. You're going to hurt somebody. One verse out of Proverbs, and then I want to skip to some of the last slides here. It says, "If a wise man has an argument with a fool, the fool yells and laughs, and there is no quiet." I think that should be the Facebook subtitle. Facebook, yelling and laughter, no quiet. Man, we argue with people using a medium that's never going to work, arguing with people that don't want to be argued with, thinking that we're going to prove them right because we have the power of God behind us. It makes us look really mean. Todd, will you skip to the arm wrestling pictures? This is getting into being manipulative now. We've talked about lying, just out and out being dumb. We've talked about being mean. This is a picture. It's a little blurry. I had to blow it up here. This is a picture of Satan arm wrestling Jesus. I see a lot of pictures of this variety. I was just talking to Rodney last week or the week before. He was talking about pictures like this. Generally, and the next picture will have this example, there's a quote that says, ignore if you love Satan, click share if you love Jesus. Or something like, click 1 like to help Jesus win this arm wrestling battle. You're like, wait a minute. First of all, don't tell me what to do. If I don't want to click like, I'm not going to click like. But then we realize we're peddling this terrible theology that Jesus and God are in some sort of eternal struggle that's a war and it's even and they're building up sides and, oh man, if I don't click like on Facebook, Satan might get that one extra tank or something and run Jesus over. Okay, this is going to be an amen moment coming up. Okay, are you ready? Satan is defeated. Amen. Jesus has already won. Amen. Okay, amens are done. We just did Easter, right? This is the message. And I see these pictures on Facebook all the time. We skipped one of a kid in the hospital, and it says 1,000 likes and she'll get her heart transplant for free. No, she won't. I wouldn't go to that doctor. Right? He's just like clicking his fingers. I really like Facebook pictures. Will you go to the next one, Todd? This one just came across my Facebook wall this week. If you love Satan, Satanus, bad spelling, or foreign spelling, keep scrolling. Because somehow, if I don't click like on your picture, I'm telling the world that I love Satan. Stop manipulating me. Right? I'm sorry, but it's not atheists posting this. It's not other religions posting this. Every day, some Christian that I know is posting a picture like this, and I think they're well-intentioned. But I want you to imagine what this would look like in real life. I'm standing on the street, in school, at work, and I'm waiting for a high five. And I look my coworker in the eye and I say, if you love Satan, just keep walking. But if you love Jesus, this is really dumb and kind of mean and very manipulative. And this is what we're peddling. This is the message that I see coming across on my Facebook wall every single day. And I'm talking about Facebook a lot, but I'm reading scripture. And I don't think Jesus was just talking about Facebook. So if you're not a Facebook user, hopefully you didn't check out. I should have said this 25 minutes ago. Jesus has a lot to say about how we interact with people, and we've been bad at it for a long time. And now we're bad at it in a way where we can interact with 1 million people at the push of a button every second. The way that we interact, the way that we talk about Jesus is more important than ever because we're doing it on a global scale. So what do? Step one, you have to fact check your stuff. And it's going to be work. There are websites out there that help you with it. And they all have agendas, but at least somebody else is trying to figure out what's true. There's Snopes.com, and their whole kick is just they look to see if a story is true or not. Now, for teachers in the room, this is going to sound terrible. There's Wikipedia, which people can change and update that as they want. But if you type into Wikipedia, will Mars be the size of the moon? It will tell you that it won't be. There's some other sites. PolitiFact helps check if things said about politicians or by politicians are true, and they tend to be a little liberal, but it's a place to start. We have got to, step one, stop lying on the internet. We have to fact check. I've watched people pass Bible verses around that don't exist, just like straight out of the Gospel of Thomas or other apocryphal books, and like, look at this thing Jesus said. Like, you just copied that off of someone else's wall, didn't you? And it was a lie. Step number 2, we have to be willing to ignore things we see on Facebook. That's going to help us a lot with meanness. I don't go to work, I work with just Todd. When I didn't work at a church, I didn't go to work with the intention of telling everybody how wrong they were. I went there to be productive and make friends and have relationships. Somehow we get on Facebook and it seems like we just want to argue and debate. We have to be willing to ignore some things. And here's what I do, because I see a lot of dumb stuff on Facebook, because everybody's dumb and I'm smarter than them. I will write an entire rebuttal. Todd can vouch for this, like a page long with citation, and this is just me being in school, coming out of school, of why they're wrong and it doesn't make any sense, and here's a better argument. And then do you know what I do with it? I delete it, because that practice was very useful for me and would not have been useful for anyone else. Argue all you want with yourself to edify yourself. And finally, this is the last thing I think that will really help. Stop assuming that people are bad and dumb. I've made that joke a lot through here, that I'm smarter than everybody else is dumb. I worry we assume that. If we could just get it back in our heads that most people are trying to do the best they can with what they've got, and they're probably pretty good people, and they're not just out there to hurt you and make God look bad, that's going to change the way that we interact with people on Facebook and the way we interact with them on the real world. Because we're here to love people. Ultimately, we are here to be a witness to Christ, to make more fruit and to make more disciples. And if what you're doing on the internet is not specifically focused on being a witness, you need to question why you're doing what you're doing. This was a race through a pretty big topic. If you have any specific questions about how to handle Facebook or other sort of things on social media, how you can do it better, how you can just relax about it. If you need somebody to pray for you and say, Facebook's toxic, I need a break, let us pray for you. Take a break. People are addicted to outrage, to Facebook, to social media. It's okay to let the church pray for you about that. Most of all, though, I want to encourage you that this is a good thing. You can be a witness to Christ with your attitude on Facebook, just like your attitude in the real world. Thank you for going through this with me. Thank you for the laughs at all the right places. I hope that this was helpful to you all. I'm going to pray, and then we'll be able to worship some more. Heavenly Father, you are amazing, so much beyond what we can understand, so much beyond the scope of our lives, the scope of the internet and Facebook and social media and just all of these connected technologies. You are beyond them. You understand them in a way that we never will. And still you chose to send Jesus at a time when there wasn't even phones. We thank you that you taught us lessons in how to communicate with people, how to love them, how to respect them. Lord, I pray that your Spirit would drive us to make more disciples by being a witness to you, that your Spirit would teach us to be gentle, to be respectful, that we could be wise because of your Spirit. Lord, just help us. Please help us. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.